Ain't nobody got no time for long introductions when we're playing with Iron Orchid Design's new Summer 2026 release. So let's jump right into the creations that Mama and I made. For each of today's projects, we're going to show you every page of the transfers and paint inlays we used. But this one was Mama's favorite. So for project number 1, Mama will explain it in detail.
Now this is so folk artsy. I can't believe it. And it's just precious. All these pretty things in here. I can't wait to use them. Look at this. Look at it. A bluebird. Look at this. A butterfly, a bug. And this, I think, is so out of this world. Oh, look at these bugs. Did you ever see bugs that pretty? And these birds, I can't wait to use these. Oh, and look at this. Look at this, how beautiful that is. It looks good. The artist for this book is Lexi Grenzer, and she has just done a marvelous job. She's in IOD Summer in Northern California. Congratulations, Lexi, I love it. Heather's showing you how easy it is to take off clay-based paint even when it's dry.
This is just a damp towel that I wrung out.
Look at that, amazing. Get all that up there.
Mama painted this cutting board with Debbie's Design Diary paint in the color Tarnished Pearl. All of Debbie's DIY products we used in today's video are available on our website at spindlemountainmercantile.com.
I painted the side of this one. I don't know why. This just like it needed to be painted, so I painted it.
Mama cut out a few aspects of the design because they didn't fit, and she'll put those back on later, just in a little bit different position.
I'm gonna do it like that.
I like it. Who taught you stuff like that?
My daughter did. She taught me how to do everything.
Mama loves to play peekaboo with her transfers. She likes to rub a little bit at a time and lift it up and see how it's going. Sometimes she'll rub right where she pulls it back, but usually she does the peekaboo method.
Now this is one that I cut off so we could accommodate this hole. And now I'm going to put it back on in a little different place. Line it up with another stem. It doesn't matter that their leaves are different. And we're going to put this piece of fern back in here. Big bad dragonflies after all of them.
And get him. Maybe he's just playing. Maybe he's a big sweet dragonfly.
Look at that. Look at that.
After Mama went home, I forgot to take that cutting board off of our kitchen island, and over the next couple of days, it got just a little bit of splatter on it. Well, I started to touch it up, and then I thought, you know what? I kind of like how those little dots look, so I left them. I gave it a good coat of Big Top to seal it and let that dry. Then I gave it another coat, and Mama's beautiful Fern Fables cutting board was complete. Project number 2 is another cutting board Mama found at Rose's on Senior Day. She painted it with Weathered Wood by Debbie's Design Diary. For mixing those big cans of paint, I like to use this handheld submersible blender. But for those smaller jars, this rechargeable milk frother comes in really handy. I found both of these on Amazon, and I will leave a link for them in the description. If you buy anything from Amazon by using my link to get there, they will give me a small compensation, but won't raise your price. The next transfer we're working with today is called the Belgravia. It's a transfer set created from vintage teacup illustrations sourced from a British museum, the original artwork used in the production of these teacups and plates in the 1800s. The collection is expanded with additional elements like birds, spoons, and florals, offering a range of pieces that work naturally together. And Mama really loves this one too.
The Belgravia. It's the first time I've looked at this book all the way through.
Where's the Belgravia? Isn't that a hotel?
I believe so, yeah. Look at these beautiful china cups. Oh, look at that. I must use that when the time comes that I can use it.
I'm thinking maybe the time is nigh. When Mama was finished applying all of the transfers, I added a little bit of rub and buff all the way around the edges, making it look like it had been gilded years and years ago, but had faded here and there. Next, we sealed it with Big Top and let that dry, and then gave it a second coat. And this cutting board is just as charming as the first one. Project number 3. Our subscribers know that we have two kinds of crinoline. We have regular crinoline that we've taken care of, and then we have the oops can that fell over and got dried and crusty, and when I poured it all back, it had a bunch of stuff in it, and I left it that way. I know I could put it through a strainer, but I pay good money to put things like sand or salt in my paint to get texture, so I use it this way. Mama is painting it over this gilded mirror I found at the thrift store, and I have put ramboard tape on the glass, and I only used ramboard tape because I couldn't find any painter's tape. Because Debbie's DIY paints are water soluble, they can be distressed with a damp cloth or a wet wipe. I just like to get a rag or whatever towel is sitting next to me and get it wet and then wring it out really good. Sometimes I don't wring it out very good if I want a lot of paint to come off. The more water you use, the more paint's going to come off. I did kind of an in-between look for this mirror. When I was done, I peeled off all of that tape and I used a razor blade to scrape in the edges between the frame and the mirror because there was just a little bit of residue in there. Then I used my Sprayway glass cleaner to get the mirror really clean without any streaks. I'm continuing on using the Belgravia, and I'm not going to talk a lot during this application. You know, this video isn't about teaching you how to use transfers. It's about introducing you to the new IOD Summer 2026 release. So for now, just sit back and partake in all of that therapy that one enjoys when they watch someone else apply transfers. I thought I would give you a shot of what it looks like when you go to my website to find one of the products, and this one is Big Top. That's what I'm sealing this frame with. By the way, I should have done it before I took the tape off, but that's okay. I mostly rubbed the paint off of the part that goes down by the glass, so I'm just not going to do that little tiny edge. I only did one coat of this and I let it dry overnight. Oh, y'all, I gotta quit making stuff I want to keep. Or maybe I don't, and I just need to keep it. Such a quandary. For project number 4, we're using IOD's new paint inlay called Little Lark. This is our first 8-inch by 12-inch small format paint inlay created for detailed, smaller scale projects. The artwork is drawn from the 19th century book The Bird by Jules Michelet, featuring birds, nests, florals, and pastoral vignettes in a classic toile-inspired layout full of charming details that you just have to see up close to appreciate. While transfers are made of ink, inlays are made of paint. So when you get that paper wet that has the paint inlay on it and you put it in your wet paint, they are going to dry together and become one surface. So when you pull back that paper, it looks like you have a hand-painted project.
I'm preparing this for a paint inlay.
Mama is painting a second coat of tarnished pearl over an already dried coat of the same paint. Well, I sped this up to 5 times normal speed because we're going to zip right through it. We did not do great on this. Well, no, that's not true. I did not do great on this. It's all on yours truly. Mama was making a plan and I wasn't, so it's my fault. I still left it in though because I wanted you to see the scale of this transfer book. I guess another thing I got wrong is my camera angle. Sorry about that. As I laid down each piece, Mama went over them and made sure all of the bubbles and wrinkles were removed. I set it aside and the next day it was dry. Now it's time to get the paper wet again. You can use a mister or spray bottle for this, but I'm just using a wet towel. I kind of wrung it out on top of that to make sure I got enough water out. You don't want to push it so that the paint smears. You just want to make sure all of the surface is wet. And the reason you're doing this is because that is what releases the paper from the paint. If you don't do this, it's just going to pull up the paint that you tried to get to adhere to your own wet paint. Let it sit for about 30 seconds and then start pulling back that paper. And this is when the magic happens. There is nothing like seeing that paint inlay when you pull back the paper, even if you've only done a halfway decent job. It's just so fun to watch. I can't explain it. I guess it's a DIYer thing. Y'all feel me, right? Once I had all of the papers removed, I used a wet paintbrush and went over the seams and just where the edges of the paper had been laying in the paint. That makes it a little bit smoother. You can also use sandpaper in those areas, but make sure you don't sand over the paint inlay because you'll just smear paint everywhere. This actually turned out way better than I thought it would, so I went ahead and put some deep blue velvet ribbon in the holes and just tied simple knots in the end and let a little bit hang down. Where I kind of crinkled up the paper in between, it was a little bit too smudged, but it still looks great. I think I can go back and fix that because I haven't sealed it yet. In the comments, let me know what you would do. For project number 5, we are turning to a traditionally sized paint inlay called Alfred Peets and Company. This is a dreamy collection of vintage wallpaper designs inspired by a museum archive sample from renowned artist Alfred Peets. Rooted in classic European interiors, this set features refined, repeating block print patterns with coordinating borders, vignettes, and corner flourishes in multiple colorways. The palette offers a fresh, timeless mix of French blues, buttery yellows, and grassy greens, a beautiful departure from traditional floral tones. With 8 distinct pages, this inlay brings an elegant, collected feel and the enduring charm of vintage wallpaper to your creative projects.
On our work day, we painted this green, but we decided it needed to be a white surface if we're going to put a paint inlay on it, so that's what we did. Now we have to put fresh paint on because that's it, the inlay becomes part of the paint, or the paint becomes part of the inlay, whichever.
Yep.
Did the chicken or the egg come first type thing.
Mama is really good at paint inlays, so we thought we'd try and see if she could do it on a surface that's not flat. Because if Mama, what do you say, Mama?
If Mama can do it, anybody can do it.
That's right. For every antiques or vintage vendor you can find me who has not come across a bunch of these rattan trays that have been broken, I will give you $1. And you will have no dollars because that doesn't happen. We always find these and usually they get thrown away. That little piece that looks like a toothpick between the two big rattan round parts, those break out quite easily. Well, I am tired of throwing stuff away. I want to make some money and I want to make some things that are beautiful to make that money. So here we go.
Gotta get it wet. You gotta be careful where you put it.
Yeah,
You can readjust it some, but not much.
yeah. All right, ready?
We think that these flowers are bright enough to show with white paint underneath.
Tarnished pearl.
But you should usually use a darker base or a light base with a dark inlay. Most important, if you don't put the paint side down, you don't do the removal.
Yeah.
So,
You just get messy paint all over your hands.
now, how long do we leave this on?
You leave it on until it turns as opaque as it was before you got it wet. And look, there's still lots of bubbles. Just keep smoothing that. You don't want to like push it while you're rubbing it because that will smear the paint. There's so many different surfaces. I think we need to go over it real good.
Yeah, but when you say it has to be opaque, does it mean it has to be almost dry?
Yeah, sorry, I should have said that. Yeah, it has to dry until the point where it looks like it did before you got it wet. All right, so we'll set that aside. So you have to stay at least another 30 minutes.
I won't be dry in 30 minutes.
Yeah, well. It wasn't. Mama was right. Again. I think it's because those layers of rattan are so thin that the water gets all the way through them. So it did take a while. It probably took about 2 hours to completely dry.
I'm using a wet towel to get this damp because somebody can't find the spray bottle.
Of course, by somebody, Mama means me. I can't find the spray bottle.
Can't wait to see this unveiling. I'm dabbing it, not rubbing it. And let it sit for about 30 seconds. And then we see if we succeeded.
And we did. This far exceeded our expectations for something with such an uneven surface.
Ain't that special?
Those white did really show up too.
Now we can reuse that paper, do more pictures. It's amazing how well the white shows up on this.
It really is. I let the paint inlay dry thoroughly, but did not seal it before I started the next step. For that, I pulled out our new transfer book called Flowers by the Poets. This is a full-scale transfer sourced from antique botanical lithographs and paired with poetic text. Those who delighted in our smaller Lover of Flowers transfer book will be sure to love these similar designs in a larger format. The collection brings together florals, birds, and typography drawn from historic sources. Because I was kind of concerned about the transfer going down into all those little nooks and crannies and crevices the rattan is made of, I went over it a lot before I actually started lifting back that plastic carrier sheet. And, I don't know if I needed to do that. I kind of wish I would have tried it without doing that first, just so I could show you guys how easily it went on. But from here on out, it was just smooth sailing. In fact, I'm just going to speed this up a bit and turn some music on, and I'll see you back here when we're done with the words. Did you see that gap down there at the bottom? Well, the inlay didn't fit the tray, and instead of just putting it in the center, I put it all the way to the top so that now I can cover that bottom part with floral. And I did it on this side because that's where the handle, or whatever you call that part of the rattan that goes around with the two rings, that's where it's broken the most. So we're going to cover that up. For starters, I glued down some greenery so that when you look through the floral design, if there's any open spaces, you won't see that painted rattan. You'll see the greenery. And I just started layering from there. I put some more greenery around that rattan rim, and then I added some little flowers in. I added some bigger flowers here and there, just kind of set them down until I figured out where everything else went. And then I just started gluing some flowers in there. I found those little pokey things. I think they're seed pods. And I painted them with nutmeg spray paint, just a light coat so you could still kind of see the yellow, but I thought those would match a little bit too. If you're afraid of trying floral design because you think you might mess up or you won't do a very good job, I highly recommend you give this way. If you're afraid to try floral design because you think you'll mess up or it won't look good or whatever the reason, I really encourage you to give this idea a go because gluing things exactly where you want them is so much easier than standing up straight stems of florals and bending them how you want the top of it to go, where the floral and the greenery all match up. Don't be afraid. I bet if you try it, you'll like it. When I was completely happy with how the florals turned out, and let me tell you, I was completely happy. First, I thought, oh, what if I'm putting too many on there? And then I held it back and I was like, okay, I'm good. Once I had all the flowers exactly where I wanted them and was happy with the outcome, it was time to figure out where I would put this little nest. I wanted it to look like it had been built inside the flower arrangement. So I cut it out where I could push it down underneath where the flowers had been glued, kind of in between them. And I just put it on like I do a normal transfer, and it really, oh my goodness, you guys, this turned out so cute. I can hardly stand it. I just kind of mourn all of those rattan trays that I've thrown away in the past. I still have some of that thin pink velvet ribbon I found on the side of the road, so I used it to make a hanger. And y'all, I hope this encourages you to find one of your own broken rattan trays and make a pretty little scene for your wall. Debbie's DIY in Tarnished Pearl is fast becoming one of our go-to paints. It's what I used on the lid of this cheese box.
Got a new book, and we're doing this thing here on this cheese, the top of a cheese holder that Heather had salvaged. And we did that because we like this so much. It's very pretty.
And so she applied the flowers, much like the picture on the back of the book. Next, Mama added the beautiful curved bow of red, soft mauve, and cream florals, and then she applied the words. Because we used clay-based paint, which is water-soluble, this piece has to be sealed. But also, we hope that it gets a lot of use, and that's why we gave it 3 coats of Big Top. Mama found this blue oversized corbel at a yard sale. I sprayed almost all of it with black spray paint. I left a few areas, though, with the blue. I'm going to add tarnished pearl over the top and then wet distress it. I want most of it to show the black, but there's a few places where I thought it would be pretty with just a little bit of blue popping through. Mama thought this wood part should be darker, and of course Mama's always right, so I obliged her by painting it with little black dress. It only took 1 coat. I used a small brush to get in all the little nooks and crannies and the places where it had been attached to the lid with staples. To find the center, I just used this little paper and wound it all the way around this upside down dessert plate. Then I drew a line around the plate with a pencil. I'm using my JB Weld Clear Weld, which is a 2-part epoxy my sweet husband found at Harbor Freight. That's where we've gotten the best price, but in the description I will also leave an Amazon link for it. The manufacturer directions recommend to stir it for about 1.5 minutes or until it turns white. I used a toothpick to apply it to the top of the corbel, and then I turned it upside down and put it right in the middle of the circle I drew underneath the lid of the cheese box. I turned it right side up and put books on it overnight so that the weight would give it a really good fit. The next morning, I woke up to this. For project number 7, I'm using the transfer book I didn't even know I needed, but I've been searching for, Primrose Isle. This transfer features artwork from the book Wildflowers of the British Isles, showcasing florals found throughout the region in a light, airy watercolor style. The collection pairs delicate botanicals with small nature elements for soft, nature-inspired designs. It includes the full-page cover of the original book, ideal for a complete composition on a tray or as wall art, along with smaller groupings for accents and detailed work. Frames, borders, and corners are woven throughout the pages, offering a range of options for building out your projects. The final page includes a full frame design that can be used as is or separated to create a custom border while repurposing the center element in another project. Many of the designs are nested, allowing you to get more use from each sheet. I found this vintage bowl wheelbarrow in a thrift store, and my sweet husband cleaned it up and made it look like new with Restore Finish. Whenever you use Restore Finish before you add a transfer, you must clean it. For that, I use 91% rubbing alcohol. One style of border in this book is made of berries. I started with the center section of this, but I don't think that really matters. You could start on either end of your strip of berries. I had to pick it up a couple of times just to get it close to my face so I could see what I was doing. But what I figured out is if I work with 2 berries and the leaf section at one time, I could get them lined up just under the rim of the bowl. Whenever you're working with a bowl that's round, that transfer isn't going to naturally curve. So what you have to do is little sections at a time, and you just lift the transfer a tiny little bit and rotate it so that it is going in the direction you need. You can also lift it away from the piece and that will tear it, but that's okay because where you tear it, you're just going to set down the next section on top of it. And where I put them together is where there's a vine coming out of either a berry or a leaf. I continued doing this all the way around the bowl. When I added the second piece to the first, I just did it like I was doing the little sections, making sure that there was a leaf or a berry where I added the little piece of vine. I've sped this up to 2 times the normal speed. I'm getting good, y'all, but I ain't that fast. I burnished this with my fingers and then I moved on to the center. I found this cute little piece that had a frog. He's just looking up at the different bugs, but I don't think he caught any, which is actually good because that's just not something I want to see. I had to cut the words apart. When you do something on a concave surface, it's not going to be straight across. If you want it to appear as if it's straight across, you have to do them one word at a time. So I cut off the words that weren't connected to the frog and did those separately. And then I set the frog piece down where that word went, and I did the word and continued on and just worked on the frog. I want the frog to be as whole as possible. And when you're doing a bowl, it's going to have either wrinkles or tears. So if I can get that one piece solid, I'm good to go. I can add the other pieces of floral and leaves around it and put those wherever they kind of hook up, just like I did with that wreath of berries around the rim. I'm going to speed this up as well, and I'll see you back here when I'm ready to seal it. After I burnished the transfer with my finger, I used Big Top to seal it. I let the first coat dry and added a second coat and let that dry thoroughly. I am so glad that I waited to find the perfect transfer to go in my little bowl wheelbarrow. I think it is just perfect. Don't you? Our final creation today is project number 8, and for that I saved my favorite piece. I'm using 2 pieces from our new release. First, we have the gilded transfer book called Athenium. This is inspired by vintage book covers and interior pages, including The Bird by Jules Michelet and a Pride and Prejudice cover by Jane Austen. Rooted in the idea of an Athenium, a place devoted to learning, culture, and the quiet exchange of ideas, this collection evokes the romance of old libraries, well-loved pages, and stories passed from hand to hand. It brings together complete compositions, typography, florals, frames, and decorative elements drawn from antique book design. Frames, borders, and and corners are thoughtfully nested together for versatility, making this set ideal for book-themed projects and library-inspired decor. Spine elements are designed to pair with the bookish mold, making it easy to create detailed book stacks and literary accents. And that's exactly what I'm doing. Bookish features a collection of classic book spines with ornate detailing designed for building book stacks and adding a smidge of literary brilliance to your decor. Each spine is cast as a separate element, giving you the flexibility to customize your book stack. I was so excited to make this project that I didn't film everything. It's almost like it made me revert back to when I first started making YouTube videos, but I think you can get the gist of what I'm doing. I started by taking two books outside and spray painting the covers and just around the inside of the covers black. I then held that part back and squeezed the pages together with my fingers while I used my other hand to spray paint the pages gold. I promise next video I will do one with silver and black, and I'll have my sweet husband film it for me so I won't forget to show you how I did that part. Where we are catching up now is gluing on the molds that I've already made that I didn't film. I spray painted them gold and let just the paint dry, but not the mold. And I'm using my Type Bond Quick and Thick glue to put them onto the book. This book was a little bit smaller than the shortest one of the molds, so I just cut the mold underneath where that little, I don't know, it's like little lines that they made indentions with, and then I pushed the bottom piece up to that. I thought that would look better than just cutting off the end and not having a design at the end. I pressed down the sides of the binding all the way down the book so that it didn't have like an abrupt edge. Also, I put my palm on this quite a few times and it kind of made it have a more leathery appearance. So I guess that's one of those mistakes that turned out to be a blessing and not a mistake. And I will do that again. Okay, we're going back in time, and I'm so sorry this is messed up that way, but I didn't know what order to do these. And I've never made anything quite like this. I've done book stacks, but this is totally different. So I did the mold. I cut it with a knife that's not super sharp because I don't want to cut my mold. And then I put some of that clay back in the center, made it super smooth. So you see there's two books there stacked up, right? So this is going on the bottom book. So I had to take them apart, and you can see, I'm going to do a close up right here. This is the first transfer I did, and I did a horrible job. It wasn't dry. The paint was still wet. So you can see all those white parts. And of course, my logical way of thinking was, oh, I can fix that. So I kept going, and no, I couldn't fix it. It really was messed up. So I decided this would be the book on the bottom, and I found a smaller book to go on top. I put the mold on the first one before I painted it. Ugh. So I had to take it outside and figure out a way to spray paint it and not get too much paint on the black. But you know what? I oversprayed and I liked that too. So let's move back to the second book again, which is now second or third. Anyway, I figured out how I wanted this cover to go on it, and I added some words down at the bottom, and it went on very easily. I was pleasantly surprised, and I bet I checked it about 15 times before I even went a half an inch. You can't see me here, but I'm like leaning over and looking through it and seeing if it's clear and if all the transfer came off, and it did. So that was a blessing too. When I figured out where I wanted this to be placed, I put my fingers on the sides of the very top of the cover. So on the binding, it comes over and it has a little indentation, and then it goes up again to the flat part of the cover. And that's the point I started from on the left. And I measured over to the right and put it right in the center of that area. So if it looks a little bit off from far away, that's why. So I didn't notice how scratched up the black had gotten until I was putting the transfers on. And I thought, well, maybe I'll just go over it with a little paintbrush. But then I realized, you know what? This is an old looking book. It's not, it's a brand new book but that I actually found on the way to the dumpster at an auction. And I want it to look old. So there you go. Now it does because I left it out and it got scratched up. I decided to add some rub and buff, and I will leave a link for some that I found on Amazon that was a pretty good price for 5 of them in different colors. I applied it first with my fingers and put big chunks here and there, and then I went over that with a brush. And I tried to make it go in different places so that it had a bigger spot. And I went heavier on the corners as well. I kept switching back and forth between my finger and my brush, trying to just kind of mush it to go in. I wanted it to look like over the years people had handled it so much that the gilding kind of got messed up, or maybe it was black and it wiped away and showed more gilding. I just wanted it to look old. But now that edge where I told you I measured from, it looks a little too perfect. So I took my brush and just ran it all the way up and down that a little bit and smeared it a tiny bit too. And I did the same thing where the mold is attached to the book. Okay, so if my directions here confused you, don't feel bad because they confused me too. I don't know what the heck I was doing and I'm so sorry, but I promise next time I will make another book and I will have all the directions properly laid out. But for today, here's what I got, and I am way more than okay with it. Here we are, Mama. What did you think about the 2026 summer release?
I just think it's wonderful. I was enthralled by the folk art book that Lexi Grinzer did. It was magnificent.
Fern
It was
Fables, yeah.
so imaginative. I loved it.
And you just came over to my house to get more stuff to take home and make.
Exactly.
We'll have another video for everyone next week, or maybe, who knows, maybe a miracle will happen and I can get some editing done and it will be ready this weekend. But we have a lot more projects we've already worked on. I think we have 14 so far.
Oh my goodness. I can't wait for your customers to see them.
Ooh,
they're gonna love it.
I think so too. My customers.
Our customers.
That's right. Well, if y'all enjoyed this release half as much as we did, you are feeling pretty good right now. If you go to our website to buy something and we're already sold out, don't fear. I've already made a second order. As soon as we got our shipment, I knew I didn't order enough because really, there's some great things here. Until you see us again next time in part 2 of this release, we hope you have a wonderful week. And as always, we hope you are blessed. Bye.